are united by a common vision, which has now become a command that we cannot ignore. The four of us are here to prevent the apocalypse.
A family of three becomes the focal point for potentially the end of the world in M. Night Shyamalan's latest film, Knock at the Cabin. We're looking at it this week on Talking About the Movies. Welcome to another edition of Talking About the Movies, and today we're talking about M. Night Shyamalan's latest film, Knock at the Cabin. The basic story of this, you follow this family of three who are vacationing out in this cabin in the middle of the woods, which is your first mistake right there, but it's a quaint little cabin, and then all of a sudden they are suddenly held hostage by these four strangers led by Dave Bautista. It also has Rupert Grint, Ron from the Harry Potter series, who demand the sacrifice of one of their own to avert the apocalypse. And, you know, M. Night Shyamalan is a very mixed person when it comes to his films. Like, sometimes he can make a great film, like his early films, The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, and then he has that huge lull of 11 years between Signs, The Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, Last Airbender, and After Earth. And then he's been on this kind of resurgence since then. The Visit was really good. Split was a really good film. And then kind of with Glass and Old, they were good movies, but not as great as the two films that came before that. So it's great to see that now you can, when you see an M. Night Shyamalan movie, your first thought is, oh great, how's he going to screw this up again? Your thought is, what kind of M. Night Shyamalan am I going to get this time? Am I going to get the same kind of M. Night that I got with The Visit and I almost said the wrong movie, The Visit and Split, or am I going to get something on the lines of some of his bad movies? And this one was kind of a mixed bag. Like, it looked pretty interesting. I thought it was interesting, the casting that they had in here. It was kind of a cool idea, but the real thinking was, what kind of M. Night Shyamalan were we going to get in here? And honestly, I think if you're going to go into this movie expecting the crazy M. Night Shyamalan, the same M. Night Shyamalan that does stuff like this at the end of his movies,
what a twist!
You might be a little bit disappointed by that, because this does not feel... It feels like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but it doesn't feel like that type of M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I think it's because he's got two different writers working with him on this one here. I guess this is based off of an initial script by these two guys, Steve Desmond and Michael Sherman, and then M. Night took over when he made the film. But it definitely shows that this is not just his writing here. And in a way, it kind of works, but at the same time, it kind of doesn't, because there is a lot of lagging going on in the script. I think honestly, the script is honestly the worst thing about this movie, because it doesn't. There's not really a whole lot going on there. The script isn't really all that clever or interesting, or they don't really do a good job of talking about these different of expanding on these characters all that well. But at the same time, though, I did find myself kind of enjoying this movie, and I liked it because it did feel like something unusually different from M. Night Shyamalan. It's not the typical movie that we get from him, but it's kind of interesting how he plays it out. It's more slower pace. The atmosphere overall is very unique and different. I think Doug Walker made a good point when he did his review on it, that it felt like one of those thrillers from the late 80s, early 90s, something like The River Wild, where where the pacing is very slow, it takes its time, and then it ramps up as it goes along. And sometimes that could work, other times not so much. I remember The River Wild not being that great of a film, but there were parts of it I did enjoy about it, and I feel like it's kind of that same thing too. I did find myself enjoying this movie, but not really for most of the characters. Like, this couple and the family, I think could have been a lot more interesting. I think they could have been in more interesting situations that maybe, they could have been... I mean, they honestly could have been more engaging. Like, I really wanted to see more from reason to really get behind these characters, and don't want to see them get injured or hurt. And you obviously don't want to see them get hurt, because they're just people who are innocent people who are being held hostage by these four random people. I think the most interesting person in this whole movie, honestly, is Dave Bautista, and I think this movie showcases how great of an actor he's become over the years, because he really has evolved into one of those great actors. Like, when you see him in a movie, he will usually give 110% to whatever project he's involved in. I mean, My Spy is a film that should not work, but he makes it work. The Guardians of the Galaxy movies are fantastic. Like, I mean, he just adds another layer to all these performances, and he's really giving Dwayne Johnson a run for his money as the best wrestler turned actor right now, because he's churning out these great movies one after another. And he gives the strongest performance of the movie. Like, you watch this movie and you're so invested in this guy and how he so believes in what he's saying to these people, and it's a great performance. Like, it's the strongest thing I could say about the movie. That's not to say the other performances are bad in here. I thought everybody did a pretty good job. I do think the family is decently cast. I like that this idea that they're acting like a normal, the way they act like a normal family, and it works very well. There's just that little hook that's missing that really would have made them incredible. Not even incredible, like they would have really stood out, is what I meant to say. But yeah, overall, like, this movie, like, the one thing I don't like is, like, I do like that M. Night Shyamalan decided not to do the typical twist. I like that he didn't decide to do the typical twist that he does in his movies. Like there is a little bit of a twist, but not as wide out in the open like you've seen in his other movies. Like, it definitely did feel like that that was more on the people that wrote the original draft of the script, and then when he got the script, he didn't have time to put his usual trademark on there. And I mean, honestly, when I came out of the movie, I was really thinking to myself, do I really like this movie for how different or unique it was, or do I really hate it because it wasn't what I expected? And it's kind of in the middle. I've had some time to think about it, and it definitely does feel like it's something in the middle. I feel like this is going to be a movie that's going to polarize a lot of people, even the biggest M. Night lovers. And I've had a lot of conflicting thoughts about how to feel about this movie. I mean, overall, I thought it was an okay. I think my final thoughts overall on this movie is that I did come out of it enjoying it for how different it was compared to Shyamalan's other work. But at the same time, I did kind of miss that spark that he brings to these movies. That's the thing that we look to these movies for all the time. I think there should be so much more to it, and it's just not there this time around. I will give it a marginal thumbs up, because I think if you go into it with the right mindset, I think if you go into it not expecting a traditional M. Night twist, I think you get just enough to really enjoy it. I think this is something that, like I said, it'll polarize a lot of people. I don't think it's going to have the same lasting longevity as some of M. Night's other works, but it's just going to be kind of there. It's just a film on his filmography that's just kind of like, it's there. It's nothing too grand. It's nothing too horrible. It's just kind of run of the mill. And you know, for M. Night Shyamalan, who's usually on one end of the spectrum most of the time, sometimes he'll make a great film, sometimes he'll make one of the worst movies ever made. I think this is something kind of interesting from him, to have a movie that's just kind of in the middle. Like, you don't really know which end of the spectrum you're going to go on with it, and that's just kind of how I feel about it. I think it's a film that's just it's an okay film. I feel like it could have been so much more, but I also feel like it could have gone in the opposite end, where it could have been absolutely horrible. But like I said, as it is, I'm giving it a marginal thumbs up. I think it works well for what it is, for a one-time watch. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be watched over and over again. I think it's going to be something that's just like, hey, you want to watch most of M. Night's work? Watch this movie, and you'll see that it's not the worst thing ever, but it's not even the best thing ever. It's just, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it now. I'm very conflicted by it. I really don't know if M. Night's true potential and what he usually brings to these movies was there this time around. But not a terrible movie, but not really a great film either. Just kind of run of the mill. And like I said, I think it's going to polarize a lot of people. Some people may like it, some people may not like it. I'm kind of in the middle on it. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle on it, and I'm still going to be thinking about it though, even afterwards. So I know I'm going all over the place on this, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. I'm still kind of conflicted by what I saw, but from what I saw, I didn't hate it, but I kind of liked it. But I'm not going to say it's one of the best films of the year. I'm not going to say it's anything different, I'm not going to say it's up there with some of his best or worst. It's just kind of run of the mill, which is something that you don't usually say about M. Night Shyamalan. So that's my thoughts on Knock at the Cabin. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. So thanks for watching this, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.